about 2 years after I started working on this polymer delivery project, I got asked to give a talk to a very distinguished audience of polymer scientists and engineers in Michigan, actually. And I'd never given a big talk before. In fact, the only talk that I'd really given before that one was in 8th grade. And that was a 1.5-minute speech, and it didn't go real well. I remember the night before that 8th grade speech, I stood in front of my parents' mirror for about 4 hours, and I kept reciting it over and over again. And the next day, I got asked to get, when I got up in front of the class, I started reciting it. And I did okay for the first minute and 2 seconds, but then I couldn't remember the next word. I just froze. So I stood up there for another minute until the teacher told me to sit down and gave me a pretty bad grade. I think it was an F. So now when this big talk in Michigan came many years later, I was very nervous. I kept practicing the talk over and over into a tape recorder, and finally the day came and I gave it. And I was pretty pleased by the end of the talk this time. I didn't forget too much what I was going to say. I didn't stammer too much. So I thought when I was done with this scientific talk that all these older, distinguished chemists and engineers, being nice people, actually, I should tell you, there are probably very few scientists in the audience, because usually when I say that, people know that scientists aren't always so nice. So I thought they'd actually want to encourage me, this young guy. But actually, when I got done with the talk, a number of these scientists came up and they said, "We don't believe anything you just said." They said, "You can't do that. You can't get these things through polymers." And it wasn't until several years later that people began repeating what we did, to the question shifted to how could this happen? And I spent a lot of my early career at MIT trying to figure that out.